We're next Friday. Microphones are all in space. Walk up there and start talking.
There's no way.
Freaky fires are Friday after Thanksgiving. Yeah, the lights, the building lights. Labor Day, Thanksgiving, Christmas.
Welcome everyone.
Why do we have to work every holiday? Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding.
Ding ding ding.
I should have a bell, huh?
Gary had a great thought that he was just trying to finish, so letting him do that. But welcome everyone to the Chamber event. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and welcome everyone. As you may know, Rachel is in Anchorage, and Holly has been taking turns running these meetings, and it was my turn. So I thought she was going to be in the hospital with a broken leg, and so that's why I said yes. But I was tricked. She does a much better job than I do. So my name is Lauren Olson. I'm the lending branch manager at Northwood Bank and a board member of the Chamber of Commerce. I'm also on the housing task force. There's a couple of us kind of behind the scenes, launching these, and then we're going to have follow-up conversations in 2024. Let's see, elected officials. I don't see any. Mayor's not here today. Assembly members. Anyway, maybe online. Some or all of them are LinkedIn, so welcome.
They heard who was presenting.
Yeah, or who was going to conduct. Or both. I think I'm going to like Cliff a lot. We just recently met, and yeah. So introductions. I can't remember. Have we done that in the past? Would anyone like to introduce themselves in the audience? I mean, I see a lot of familiar faces. I know a lot of you have been attending in the past, so okay to move past that? Tanya, Victoria? So chamber announcements. The Tourism Task Force is hosting a town hall meeting at Harrigan Hall on Monday, November 13th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. This meeting will discuss the the environmental, economical, and equitable effects of tourism in our community, and suggest an appropriate level of tourism for Sitka. We strongly encourage our business community to attend and make their voices heard. The Chamber team is also attending, and we will continue to provide updates to our partners and members. And so I'm just going to inject a little bit. I've been heavily involved in community, city government throughout my career, and an effective city government gets a lot of public feedback. So don't stay at home in your pajamas. Come to these meetings, give them feedback. They can make better decisions when the public provides that all important feedback. Next announcement, Sitka's Emerging Leaders. Next monthly mashup will be November 16th from 5 to 7 p.m. at Harbor Mountain Brewing Company. We encourage all Sitkans aged 21 to 40 to attend and join this community. So this has been a successful project that the Chamber has launched this year. Holly has been running it, but we've needed a young professional networking event in town, and it's gone really well. As a board member, I've attended a few. November 16th at Harbor Mountain Brewery. Last announcement is the Sitka Chamber's 3rd annual Light Up Lincoln Street will be held on Saturday, December 2nd. Sponsorships for the event are open to help us make the event bigger and brighter. We encourage downtown businesses to offer a special holiday sale, decorate, and attend. So Light Up Lincoln on December 2nd. We're all sitting at the edge of our chairs waiting to listen to Cliff's presentation. Let me give him a brief introduction. Cliff Richter has been the Executive Director at Baranof Island Housing Authority since 2020. Cliff was the Development Coordinator at BIAH for 14 years before beginning a 2-year stint in 2018 at the City and Borough of Sitka, where he served as a municipal engineer and oversaw public projects such as Crescent Harbor reconstruction, DeGroff Street reconstruction, and many more. He returned to BIAH to lead the organization into a new era of desperately needed housing development in Sitka. Cliff is Sitka's biggest baseball fan and loves the outdoors. If you're lucky, you might catch him canoeing on Swan Lake. So, yes, as part of this fall speakers series on housing, it's essential that we hear from Cliff, and I'm looking forward to his comments. So, Cliff, take it away. Thank you and welcome.
Hey, great. Thanks, everybody. It's good to be here, and it's an honor to be asked to speak today. One thing I kept thinking about as I was preparing for this is that I was going to look around the room and just see a lot of people that I knew, and it's just so different than doing this in a really big place, like if we lived in Anchorage or Seattle or somewhere, because I don't just work with you folks, but our kids go to school together, and I coach your kids, or you've coached mine, or we're all involved in different things, and it just put in perspective that how much we care about what we're working on, and how housing ties into all of that, and that we're all in this together. So it's kind of my intro. So I titled my presentation BIAH and Sitka's Housing Crisis, and I didn't, I threw this in here because what can go wrong will, right? So I was preparing for my presentation, and I was like, I'm gonna make it, what can I do to make this thing better? And I found a cool font to make the title, right? So I did that, and then I converted it to PDF, and that's what it looked like. So I thought you get a kick out of seeing that, but that's, went back to the original font, right? Okay, so I didn't want to, what I would really like to do is kind of go over, and I figure what everyone wants to hear is kind of what are BIAH's plans for the future. I could talk a lot about the past and who we are and what we do. And we'll touch on that briefly, just because I don't want to assume that everyone here knows exactly who we are and what we do. So, a brief history of BIAH. We were created in 1980 by state statute. We're a regional housing authority, and there are 14 of those in the state of Alaska, essentially designated by region. And through that process, we are a tribally designated housing entity designated by Sitka Tribal Alaska. So every tribe can designate a housing authority, or they can do that work themselves, technically. So we are STAs, TDHE, as we're called. We're a federally funded organization primarily, and most of what we do is funded by something called an IHBG block grant from HUD. And a really difficult thing about that is that funding exists because of an act called NAHASDA that was passed in 1996 by the Clinton administration. And as great as that was and is, it hasn't increased in any significant way since 1996. So it's like a blessing and a curse. Here you go, and we've kind of had to work with that. And so initially we had an opportunity, I'll go over here, we had an opportunity to do a little bit of that for operations and a lot for like development work. And as time goes on and the costs got more expensive, we're kind of getting in a place where we have to even figure out very little for development work from that grant, and have to subsidize our operations from other sources in addition to that grant. So that's a challenge that we constantly face. Our first 30 homes were completed in 1987, and that's when you drive through the village and see many of the two-story, most of which are vinyl sided homes on Cat Land and especially Cogwanton. That was part of that project, and naturally those weren't the original homes in the village, so there was a lot of change. I wasn't here at that time, but that was how those 30 homes were constructed. Lauren mentioned in my bio I moved to Count, I think, in 2004, if that wasn't shared. So I've been here a while, but not in the 80s. We've created over 180 housing units and/or lots sold in Sitka, and I talked about and managing 90 units today or about, and it just perspective is an interesting thing. 180 units we think is a lot, and it is, but in the whole scheme of thing of what Sitka needs, it's just the tip of the iceberg of what we still need. In 2000, we acquired the Monastery Senior Housing Apartments. That's a 24-unit senior housing complex on Hollywood and Monastery Streets. One-story units kind of adjacent to Swan Lake Terrace, which is not our program. That's an HFC program. So they're located near each other, and that works out well because our senior residents can still go over to the senior center for lunch and that sort of thing, right next door. And then I thought I would mention that we have a tribal rehab and weatherization program. And what I mean by weatherization was the state of Alaska invested heavily in weatherization in the last decade, starting around 2009 or 10. And BIAH was sort of the Sitka recipient of those weatherization funds for about something like 7 or 8 years, and we were really we put in over 100 heat pumps in town and did a lot of weatherization, insulation, exterior envelope kind of work. That funding no longer exists in the way that it did from HFC. HFC is Alaska Housing Finance Corporation, and they have a presence in Sitka, and we often get mixed up with them, but we're not them. We're a separate entity. Okay, I thought I'd list our programs real quick, and you guys can, I know every speaker is different. You guys are welcome to ask questions during the presentation too, because sometimes it's hard to talk about that later or remember your question. Or if I want to bump it to the end, don't take offense to that. I might just say, ask me that again later. We have a low rent program. We also have an essential families program, and that's just a stipulation within our low rent program that allows us to rent a small portion of our units to what HUD defines as essential families. So we use the term essential workers now, right? And it's a lot of those types of things. But this program has existed since the creation of NAHASDA in 1996. We have a small handful of what we call non-program units, actually just 3. And so what I mean by that is they don't have strings attached that others do. So most of what we do is provide low income, affordable housing rental opportunities for STA tribal citizens, income eligible STA tribal citizens or members of other tribes. And so that is typically a function of the funding that we have. But we do have a small number of units that are essentially eligible to the community. As you can guess, those fill up very fast when we only have 3 of them. We'd like to have more. We have a home ownership program and lot sale program. That is dependent on if we have homes and lots available to sell, which we have had more in the past than we do now, but we'll be working towards that, and I'll explain that soon. Our closing cost assistance program, which is not heavily used or capitalized on by applicants, and that is a function of 2 things: the availability of housing in Sitka, and especially the availability of housing for individuals. So that's also an income eligible program, and so as difficult as it is for everyone to find a home, add on top of that your income restrictions, and thus not a lot of people are able to take advantage of that program, even though we would like to and like them to, and keep working on that. Tribal rehabilitation is a program in which we work on homes in the community not owned by BIAH, so privately owned homes, and typically in the past we've had something like 50 to 60,000 a year that we're able to invest into that program and do things, a lot of exterior improvements, building envelope, new roof, windows, doors, heating system, heat pump upgrades, those kinds of things. We've actually paused that program because we have some potential funding sources coming in with some new rules, and it could be a much bigger program. And so we're pausing that to kind of rewrite our policies and prepare to get that program off the ground. A primary source of funding is called the U.S. Treasury's HAF program, Housing Assistance Fund. Okay, and we also have a financial literacy program, and what I mean by that, it's funded by a program or a grant called HUD's Ross Grant, Residential Opportunities for Self-Sufficiency. Isn't that part of the speakers like come from your thing and just like wow everybody with the acronyms in your own in your own world? But it pays for an individual to be a financial literacy specialist. Her name's Leah Mason at BIAH, and it's really wonderful because it allows for people who are in trouble and maybe in jeopardy of losing their housing, or they're unable to find housing, they're applying for BIAH housing and can't get in. It allows her to spend some extra time with them and develop a program and utilize a variety of resources to help them make changes in their life, or really spell out what they need to do to get on track and get them in a position to either be eligible for like a BIAH rental, or even better, works with renters who have expressed an interest in home ownership, and getting them trained up and equipped with tools and habits and all sorts of things like that to get them in a position to be able to purchase their own home someday. Okay, now we're getting into the good stuff. Plans for the future. And this, I'm just gonna list these out and then I'll go into more detail with the presentation. So phase 4, multifamily housing, is a fourth phase of our multifamily housing project. I'll show you that up here soon. And that is gonna go out to bid this year. It's an 8-unit project. I'm tempted to tell you a lot about these right here, but I'd rather scroll through and then get to the good stuff. So phase 4, a multifamily housing project. Monastery rehabilitation, phase 2, that's our senior housing. Modernization projects on Andrew Hope Street. I am going to mention this one challenge that we have is, in the community, everyone would like to think, okay, what's BIAH spending their money on? What are they going to be working on next? We all know, everyone wants to know more lots, more units, that kind of thing. Part of the ongoing challenge for us is taking care of our existing units too. So a large portion of the funding that we do have, we end up using to take care and maintain our housing units as well. So Andrew Hope Street, which I'll show you soon, hasn't really received much work or love over the years, and we're redoing the siding on that on these 20 units of 30+ year old duplexes on Andrew Hope Street. Duplex construction, we completed one at 102 Herb Diedrichson Street, new construction during the pandemic. We have another unit under construction now. That's a duplex at 100 Giltrude Court. And I have some maps and I'll kind of show you where some of that stuff is. Looks like I have, there we go. And then the exciting thing we're working on is extending Herb Diedrichson Street, which is going to open up at least 10 to 20 lots. I'll tell you more about that soon. That will lead to subsequent home construction and sales of vacant lots. And then I just listed that we're trying to really increase our openness to partnering and working with community organizations that could really, I mean, that's how we're going to get stuff done, by leveraging and partnering together. So one of our big challenges is a kind of our major street up there called Yaw Drive, which I'm going to jump to. Oh yeah, that too. I have so much to tell you. I'm going to jump to this. This is Yaw Drive. I bet most of you are familiar with Indian River. Sitka's not that big. We own a rock quarry back here, and there is a quarry road called Yaw Drive that runs from Indian River Road up to the quarry. And a big challenge for BIAH and the community is getting Yaw Drive improved with water and sewer and that sort of a thing, so that we can just build another road off of Yaw Drive to create new subdivisions and that sort of a thing. So that's the kind of partnering, I mean, things that could be mutually beneficial to help get something like Yaw Drive extended. So this was funny too, like I wanted to get everything on one screen and easy to read, and I thought, oh, what if I turned it sideways? Well, that looks horrible, so we're not gonna do that. So back to portrait mode. And okay, so I threw this map in here several times for reference purposes. So this is our multifamily housing project. We constructed, can you see my cursor? Yeah. Phase 1 in 2007, that was 8 units. What I'm referring to is this project right off of Sawmill Creek. When you come down Indian River Road, it's on the right. So we have a cluster of fourplexes back there. And it's kind of something I've been working on since I joined BIAH 2004, is getting this property and developing it over time. So we were able to construct 8 units in 2007, 8 more units in 2011, 8 more units in 2017, and we're ready to go on 8 more, 2 fourplexes. And this shows one building, but it's really cool to be a part of something that you had a master plan done in 2006, and working on phase 4 out of 4. You know, it's a cool feeling. I just wish we could have done it in a 5 or 6 year period and not closer to 20 years. But that's what this one took. So that's coming up. We're not sure if we're going to be able to afford all of it or half, and that's the reality of skyrocketing construction costs. So we're hopeful we can build both fourplexes, but we're going to be in a position to build just one, and that's part of the strategy in designing it for 2 different buildings instead of one. This is the layout for that project. So if you've been inside there, phase 3 is back here, and then you can kind of punch through, and this is actually a hidden little dog leg in the property back here. But here's the first fourplex, and here's the second one back here. There they are again, just a little different, showing the floor plans. That's a elevation view. The front's actually going to look different than that, but they spent some time making this pretty picture for us, so I thought I'd share it with you too. Our architect is Jensen Yorba Lot, formerly Jensen Yorba Lot, now they're called Jensen Yorba Wall. This is going to be facing Indian River, and I'm supposed to say keep the uhs to a minimum, right? So instead. A green belt, there's going to be a green belt, the flume is back there, and so I think it's something like 50 to 100 feet of a green belt between our property and Indian River. Okay, here it is again. So this is kind of where that road punches in here, where I showed you, and the 2 fourplexes will be back here. So this is Indian River Road, Sawmill Creek, right here. State troopers are across the road. Okay, there's that again. So now we're going to go up the road and up Indian River Road. I don't think I did that.
Oh, that was.
I'm going to leave that there. I'll feel better if I just do this.
Thank you.
Yeah. Velcro next time. I'm not going to show you. I thought about including pictures, but I want to keep things rolling. This is Andrew Hope Street, and this is where our 20 units rentals are that are undergoing a major exterior upgrade. And if you want to go on a tour and go with me, or just go driving up there and drive up Andrew Hope Street, you'll see a dramatic difference in the work being done to those units. Okay, this is a huge challenge. This is another picture of the same thing, and anything that has some sort of rainbow color on it is a wetland. And so basically that's everything that you see, aside from everything that's easy to get to is a wetland. So right, so you start going up the mountain and up to our rock quarry, and it's not. And that's not going to stop us from developing. It just means we have to be more creative in how we go about it. But this parcel is our 200-acre parcel. We don't own this anymore. The state Public Safety Academy owns that, but this is Herb Diedrichsen Street, which I'll tell you about soon, and it's going to be in here, and it's all wetlands, but it's a variety of different types, and we just, like I said, have to be creative in how we develop it. We might have to set aside property in other places to mitigate and compensate for that. But I thought that was worth sharing. That's one of the huge challenges we face. Okay, so I showed you where Herb Diedrichsen Street is, so that's this street, right? You come up Indian River Road, turn onto Yaw Drive, and back in here in that upper subdivision is Herb Diedrichsen Street, which I feel like I'm flying through this. Am I? You guys have questions, or is it easy to follow? Okay, it's so easy to fall into, like, this is stuff we talk about every day, right? And say it like you guys know it, but I don't expect you to do so. No dumb questions, okay? Herb Diedrichsen Street dead ends right here, and we're going to bring it around in this little area. This is the cross trail, unimproved part of the cross trail, as it heads toward Indian River. And we have plans, not just plans, but this project, in partnership with STA, they contributed $3 million of American Rescue Plan funds. So the best thing about this project is it's happening. Odds are we'll get an estimate down and it'll cost $6 million, not $3 million, right? But that's all good news. And this is a sketch that I created in 2018, and we're working with JYW and P&D engineers to do all the preliminary engineering. And I wish I had a preliminary engineered drawing for you ready to share, but we don't have that yet. So back to the 2018 version. This was just an exercise to show how many lots we thought we could develop there. It could very well turn out very different than this, but it gives you the idea that, okay, maybe this can be done, assuming that the Corps of Engineers will allow us to develop. And this is Yaw Drive, and this is the cross trail through here, and so we have this kind of space to work with. And if I can punch back to Indian River Road, we will. It would be a better project, I think. But probably the most expensive part of this project is developing Yaw Drive from here to here because of the size of the water and sewer mains and that sort of thing. Per foot cost, expensive. Okay, there's that again, just for reference. So this is the same Herb Diedrichsen parcel. And below that, so this is Herb Diedrichsen Street, and I thought I would mention that. Let me step back a second. How much time do I have? About 10 minutes? 5?
Yeah, you have like 10 to 15.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the plan going forward is to start figuring out ways. I gotta speak to you guys, big picture here. Start figuring out ways to develop a subdivision. Not just, it's not going to be enough for BIAH to create a subdivision once every 20 years and sell it off and then try to figure out how to do the next one. So what we know we need to figure out is develop something like this and then create some sort of a model where we can then jump to the next one a lot sooner than later. And what that probably means is something like creating these lots, selling off a portion, half or more, and then we keep the other, the remainder to construct units for our programs, and then we use the proceeds to roll over and build the next subdivision across the street or up the road. That's the plan. It could very well be that we need to sell those lots just to pay off the project itself, but the $3 million from Sitka Tribe is going to go a long way to making this possible, and all we can do is try. We'll get this first one done and get rolling on the next and see what we can do. When I say sell lots, to be clear, what that's probably going to look like is it'll be some sort of a program designed to sell lots to Sitka tribal citizens, or at least tiered in that way. So they, because of the funding source and because of BIAH's mission, those lots would be eligible on some sort of a tiered system. Like, we still have to flesh this out, but maybe 60 days it's open to STA tribal citizens, and then after that maybe members of other tribes are eligible, and then maybe after another 60 days it's open to the community if there are any lots remaining. So that's kind of the vision for that. And maybe we keep 10 lots for ourselves, maybe we keep 2. We'll just kind of remain, that's kind of fluid, and we'll make a kind of informed business decision as we learn more. The other thing is, after meeting with Amy Ainsley and just studying what's going on in Sitka, we're heavily considering creating some smaller lots too. So to drive the cost down, but also to maximize the number of lots that we create. So either a mix or all, something like that, and somewhere between, somewhere probably between 4,000, 5,000, and 6,000 square foot lots, if we can. We're going to look at that and see if it's feasible. What Sitka needs is more of everything, but we think this is a good way to go for this project. And this is the project below. So this is Herb Diedrichson Street right here, and keep highlighting the whole thing. The little yellow highlights indicate lots that are still vacant. So we do still have lots that have not been developed, and we've been slowly constructing on those ourselves. So this is 102 Herb Diedrichson Street, which was completed about a year ago. This one is under construction now on the corner, and we'll probably build at least 1, maybe 2 more in this subdivision, but either as part of the lot sale with the next project, or maybe getting a jump start, and before that even, we might, and when I say we, I'm referring to approval from my board and organizational vision, selling off the remainder of these lots, and that can help pay for the next project, just like I talked about. So you can see that a lot of things took a lot of time, and part of what I want to do is try to jumpstart that and get things moving a lot faster. That's what all of Sitka needs. And when I say too that Sitka tribal citizens may have priority on purchasing lots, I strongly believe that's going to benefit the entire community, because it will free up some of the housing shortage and create an offset and ripple effect that benefits everyone. Okay, this is concept only, but I wanted to share this across the street. This is actually working out that I threw this in here so much. Across the street from Herb Diedrichson Street, that project is this sliver over here, and I wanted to share that we have, in 2015, all the way back then, we created a concept for a pocket park, pocket neighborhood cluster housing type project, very similar to the Land Trust project, and it was kind of an exercise, but it was real too, and developed it in a conceptual way to determine if it was feasible. And really, we didn't pump the brakes on it so much as we just had other things in the pipeline. But this is there, and we also kind of yielded to see, didn't want to compete with the land trust and their project as well, since it was somewhat experimental. I think it's showing that it's not experimental, but very successful now. And so maybe we develop this across the street. It's going to take a lot of funding just to get it off the ground. We might do this, we might do something else, but just wanted to share that, we're forward thinking, and usually when we're building one project, it's really important to be planning and designing the next 1 or 2 or 3 down the road, instead of, we have to be multitasking, because otherwise you're back totally at the drawing board when you finish a project, and we want to be getting a head start on these future projects down the pipeline. Okay, so again, that's over here, and everything out here and up these uplands areas. It gets a little tricky because it's going to get steeper back there, and probably more landslide risk. So that's the downside, right? Oh, no wetlands here. Start going uphill. Gets a little steeper, and there are other problems and other risks we've learned. But those are going to be more expensive to get to. So it's important to get yaw drive developed and then be able to reach out from there. I did want to, not quite, wanted to jump back and say, as part of all of this planning process, is our needs assessment project, and that's, you might have heard us or seen us advertising this right now. This is the Sitka Tribal Housing Survey as part of our Sitka Tribal Housing Needs Assessment Project, and we're getting a tremendous response, probably because we're offering airline miles, but we're excited to be getting a tremendous response. I think over 400 tribal citizen families have responded. That's both STA families in Sitka and outside of Sitka. We're also learning that it's a little early to be talking about results and analysis and conclusions of the survey, but we're getting a strong indication that a lot of folks would like to move back to Sitka if they could, and that's pretty meaningful data to have. So that's going to get wrapped up. The survey ends in later this month, November 21st, and we'll get the report back in January, and we're hoping to just get a lot of really valuable information there that's going to help inform decisions going forward. And not just that, but having that study and that report is a valuable piece to add to a grant application, and they want to see hard data when you're talking about documenting a need for why you're applying for a $4 million housing project and that kind of thing. So this kind of data is real and not just based on what we think Sitka needs. This is the first page of the survey, to show you that it's real. No. But you can go to it, or tell your friends, or if you're aware of any, not just STA tribal citizens, but members of another federally recognized tribe living in Sitka, they're eligible to apply for this as well. So please get the word out. They can go to this link here, or also just to BIAH's website, biahsitka.org. Okay. I think that's it, but I would like to think there's a ton of questions. So do you have any, or would you like more information on anything? Yes, Gary?
So what do you think your biggest hindrance is to develop outside of cash flow? Because it sounds like just getting the cash to develop it is an issue. So is there something else that's also holding it up, or is it just basically lack of funding?
Yeah, I mean, and did you say is an issue or isn't an issue, the cash flow?
Well, I'm sure it is. It sounds like
it is. I wasn't sure what you said.
Yeah.
It is, it is a big one. That's the biggest. And then, I would say also there's an assumption that we have a whole lot of land, and we do, but also it's just not nearly as much as you think, or there's not as much to develop as we think. So That's, you know, either it's wetlands or it's steep, and then you have a smaller footprint and that kind of a thing. Those come to mind, a myriad of issues. You know, I know we have workforce issues and that kind of thing, but I don't think it's prevented us from taking on development. We contract that stuff out. It'd be great to have more competition, but you know, we find a way to get it done. Thankful for companies like Dawson Construction and MCG. Without them, we would have been, you know, they've been big partners with us over the years on getting projects done. Those two. Yeah. Yes, Dan?
All of the land that's being built on is city-owned property at this time out there. And secondly, all the funds that run through your office are for native only. Is that correct?
I think it's safe to say the majority of funds are for native only. So we can, one important thing about this property that we purchased, the better one, is that outline. That outline up Yard Drive. This was property that was Sheldon Jackson College property once upon a time, and BIAH purchased it from SJ. That was actually purchased with BIAH savings, with the intent that there would be no strings attached on that land. So as far as that property goes, there's no like federal requirement saying it has to be this way, but usually what dictates is the development funds that we pour into it in order to construct it. So not sure if that answers your question. You know, there's nothing stopping us then when we construct like the extended Herb Diedrichsen project that, like I said, if it goes down a tier, you know, members of the community, non-native, could purchase those. But in this particular case, you know, aligns with our vision and STAs in order to provide preference to tribal citizens on those particular lots. Does that help?
Yeah. There's more land out beyond where you have secured, out there to the base of the mountains.
Oh, right, like up here and beyond. I think this is Mental Health Trust that became Forest Service property, but I think even beyond that, there's some city-owned property out there, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
And that could be in your future. It's not there yet, okay.
I mean, this is ours. This is in our future. This is land we don't own, but it's to be determined yet how it's going to be used, right? Or what the city does with it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks, Cliff. Kind of looping back to the Herb Diedrichsen subdivision, you mentioned the chance of like smaller lot sizes. I was wondering if there'd maybe been a consideration also of like townhouses or additional fourplexes, like to get the maximum, like number of people living on a certain set amount of land.
Yes. Good question. The answer is yes. And we'd really love to maximize the amount of, I guess, opportunities for home ownership we can create with this project. At the same time, kind of balancing that with some consistency with the neighborhood that's already there, which is predominantly single family housing. And so kind of the thinking is this to have much more of a single family feel to it, maybe some, you know, like zero lot lines and that kind of a thing, but maybe not too much more than that, from like a multifamily standpoint, and then kind of being more open to that across the street, which could have a very, like a different deal, maybe even higher density. Thanks. Yes?
Maybe, do you have like any idea or any sort of like maybe waiting lists from tribal citizens that are like in a position to purchase a home that just don't have a home available to them? Like, is there data on that you guys have?
That's part of what we're collecting.
Yeah.
But what we currently have, I mean, the information that we currently have is for folks who walk in the door, you know, and talk to us, and apply for this or that, or our current renters. And we have a handful of renters who are ready or close to ready. But I wouldn't say that we have that we have dozens, that. And then more than likely, just to be clear, when we sell lots up here, these are going to be open for sale for tribal citizens and members of other tribes, regardless of income. So income on this lot sale program would be not a factor, meaning they wouldn't have to be one of our low rent tenants or someone meeting that criteria. Usually less than 80% of the median family income or something of that nature. You bet. All right, saving the good ones for last. Lauren has one, I think.
Just want to, I guess, emphasize a comment you made, that when you said that even though you're building homes for tribal units, that helps the community, and it absolutely does, because I think you said ripple effect. So
Yeah.
if Sitka needs X number of houses and BIAH builds 8, in the 2 fourplexes and then another 20, that is that many less that we need in the community. But you mentioned, and I don't know if I was talking to Tanya or not paying attention, that to develop an area you needed collaboration, cooperation. I mean, the city has to be on board. Were you thinking like private developers, more federal funding? Just, are there two or three or four things that you're wanting to happen, or that would help you get across the finish line, and then how can we help that?
Right. It's somewhat wide open. Certainly would like to talk to anyone who's interested. More than likely, it's unique and challenging because to tell someone, hey, we'll sell you a lot back in here, but you need to fully improve Yaw Drive to get there. I mean, it has to be some sort of balance, make sense for them and make sense for us, and most partners don't have that kind of cash to do that. So it would very likely need to be some sort of a or one scenario would be like a government agency that could either finance it or provide a grant, or maybe some sort of a partnership project that would benefit Forest Service, Park Service, something. I'm not even sure what that is yet, but that kind of a thing where it's mutually beneficial. Maybe they need a facility up there or something, and have access to other funds. But I'm just want to continue to think outside the box on that. Maybe there's an industrial opportunity or something like that would work, coexist well with the quarry operations and that kind of a thing too. Yeah, no limits right now.
A question. What is the anticipated, not necessarily completion date, but for those lots that are going, that are being placed up from Diedrichson, what is the anticipated timeline for completion, or is there one yet?
There's not a hard one yet, but we are completing design this year. The schedule is complete design this year, and put it out to bid next winter and start the following summer. So this summer is 24, construction in 25, and I think they can get a lot of that done in the summer of 2025. So let's say completion in 2026, probably more likely. And to be clear, then the lots they'll have access to the lots, but it would more than likely be up to the purchaser to develop their own lot, and construct their own home. And that's how we'll be able to get it done and start selling them sooner too. If we committed to, putting the building pads in and that sort of thing, then it would just take more time and money for us that we may not have. But I thought if we do have extra funds, maybe what we'd probably do is maybe start developing some lots for our purposes with the extra money. Like, if by chance the bids come back at $2 million instead of $3 million, right? Good luck with that. Yeah, that's the current outline. Okay, I guess I'll also add, anybody has questions for me, or you can reach me, at BIAH or here. And happy to talk more, or take some, do a little tour up the valley and show you some of these things. Or maybe you have an idea and want to share it with us and say, have you thought of this? Gary's always got great ideas. And we've been talking about getting together since I returned to BIAH. So stuff like that, I'd love to hear your ideas.
Oh.
Okay?
Oh, never mind. It's just a thank you. We had a question in the chat.
Ooh.
Amy Aisley says thank you.
Oh, awesome. Hi, Amy.
Accolades in the chat, that's always fun.
Maybe it was thank you for the shout out. I mentioned your name during the presentation. All right. Very much appreciated. Everybody have a good day.